this week's episode of the FlowCast, we've got Mike Doherty with me. He's the owner of Dohjo Muay Thai, which is a Muay Thai and I believe like kickboxing and everything gym in town.
Yeah. So, so we teach mainly Muay Thai. That's the specialty, but I've done a little bit of kickboxing and boxing and stuff like that as well, and kind of offer. It's good to work on things like specifically as well as all together.
Yeah, it's very cool. So the reason that I wanted to get you in today is because you're just off of another tournament win, or is it like what? How would you classify the fight and the team that just went down to Florida, right?
Yeah, that was like a world title. So it was the IKF World Classic tournament. And it's, people from all over can go into it. So all over the world can go into the tournament. And, I fought, I think, 2 people from the States. And then I think, maybe from the first guy, I think was maybe from Mexico or something. And then the second guy was from the States. But
that's awesome. Mm-hmm. And did you won both fights?
Yeah, I won the first one unanimous. That was I felt the tougher fight. The guy... He was like the coach at a UFC gym in the States or something like that, and then he had a good outside game, so I had to adjust and kind of lock him up in the clinch and throw some knees, and then the second fight I ended up winning by KO in the first round.
Awesome! Wow, congratulations!
Thanks.
So that's another feather in your cap with all of the fighting accolades that you've got, but also. What was it? 4 out of 5 of the team members won their fights as well?
Yeah, 4 of us won, mm-hmm. And then there was 2 that lost, but I wouldn't consider them losses. Like I never consider it a loss, anyways, because you just learn from it and move forward, right? But the one decision especially was very kind of. I don't know if I would have called it that way. I thought she won anyways, and but
sometimes with the decision, when it comes down to the decisions, it's tough like that.
Yeah,
that's really cool though, that because obviously like the FlowCast really revolves around this concept of flow and flow states, and really getting into like how you break down how people that excel in whatever field they're in can really get into this deep zone, but also the concept that it's really tied in with like growth and mastery, and you mentioned there like never recognizing a loss as a true loss but an opportunity to learn. So how did is that something that you instill in all of the fighters, and how did you kind of come to that? Is that something you've always like thought of, or how did you kind of come about that mindset?
Well, I just don't think anything gets done if you just you're constantly focused on losing, right? So it's I don't know, you feel better when you're winning, and not necessarily have to win belts or whatever, it's like, okay, you get up and you actually like going to the job that you're going to, that's winning, so it's like I don't know. I just rather do that and make people feel good than make them feel bad, kind of thing, right? But I guess the hard thing is it takes some courage to go towards those feelings and feel that you deserve that kind of thing, and get out of your comfort zone, I guess.
Yeah, totally. And do you find that like the people at the gym, like does it spread? Like is it sort of infectious when you kind of work with this mentality? And
yeah, no, definitely. Like everyone like wants to, we got an amazing group in there. It's really cool to work with them. They make me want to get better every day. I don't feel like I can show up unless I do get better, because it's like they're counting on me, right? So that's why I keep trying to win, I guess. It's like I don't feel like it's kind of one of the reasons why one of my motives for fighting is like I don't I don't feel like I deserve the position unless I'm, you know, constantly improving myself and getting better, right? And it just kind of helps them out too, I guess. But,
Cool. Yeah. Yeah, you talk a lot about self-mastery, and usually this is like a question I'd save to the end, but I just like to make things kind of go with where the conversation's leading it. So like how do you define that, and like is it, or how do you define even just mastery, and what sort of things do you do to kind of keep following that path?
I think doing something every day towards like being better, I guess, like not, I guess, acknowledging where you've come from, like in like what you've done and stuff like that. That's very important. But also knowing that, you know, where you're going and stuff like that. So keeping the balance that way, I guess. But it's hard to put into words, the self-mastery thing. Like I try to do like, at least like, I write these things down, because I try to do at least like one thing a day where I feel like I'm just getting better myself in some way, right? Where if I don't, I'm like, oh man, I wasted a day kind of thing. But like, yeah, like one thing every day, I guess, to just be better. It's not that I don't feel like I've done a lot kind of thing, because I have done a lot, but I'm not fixated on it, because everything's always changing, right? So it's constantly, because the fight game's adaptable, right? So it's the one day you could be winning, one day you could be losing, and sometimes it's just like, you know, maybe you're sick that day or something, you know, and you're losing. So it's I don't know. I think your body just kind of repeats what you repeatedly do, kind of thing. So if I'm always in the habit of, you know, winning and training and pushing myself to my limits and stuff like that, when it comes to fight time, like even if I'm sick, which I did not feel good for my first fight, my body will just repeat what I repeatedly do. And that's what I actually, in my first fight of that tournament, like the weight cut kind of hurt me a little bit, and I wasn't feeling the best. And then I actually went back to my training that my coach was taught me, and just literally it was like all I was thinking about was doing what I was just doing in the gym, kind of thing, right? So if I hadn't had that mindset of self-mastery and in training doing better and better and better kind of thing and showing up, then, you know, it wouldn't have helped me in that actual situation when I needed it, right? So,
yeah, totally.
So I guess that's the meaning of training for me as well, is to you know, you never know when you're gonna need it, kind of thing. Is you just do it and have faith that if something does happen, then you'll be prepared in that moment, right? So
cool.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't know which. Yeah, that was
kind of rambled on there.
No, it's all good. Just there's a couple of different things that I want to like go off of that. But do you like write down these goals or these training objectives that you kind of accomplish, or is there any kind of daily practice behind that, or is it just something at this point that just gets done?
Yeah, like I always have like objectives and stuff I'm moving towards. Like I'll have things for you know, for my gym, like myself, and like different aspects of the in different like categories of each. Is mainly just like the gym and myself, I guess. But you know, competition wise, I had a goal to compete in 3 tournaments this year. I've competed in 2 already, and I won those 2. And then the one I'll be competing for in October is Team Canada in Bosnia, actually. So that's gonna be the real big one. So
yeah,
I'll be ready for that. So yeah, no, I definitely, like, I keep like, I guess, 2 journals. So like Actually 3, which is weird. I only used to keep 1, but I kind of separated them in different things. So cool. I guess 1 was for like my daily like to-dos and stuff like that with the gym. And then that's kind of linked up with my goals with the gym. And then the other one is like my training routine. So I know that when it comes fight time, I can look when I feel like I'm not ready, I'm not in shape, whatever, you know, those thoughts start to come into your head, like everyone. I can just look back on my paper and see the work that I put in, the hours and hours I've put into my training and how I've eaten, how much time I've slept, you know, what were my thoughts like, and like what was my training like that day. And I can look back and like, I guess reassure myself with that one. And then the other one I keep is almost like a little kind of philosophy book, because I got some weird stuff going on in my head sometimes, so I just write it out. And yeah,
right, cool. So yeah, that's pretty similar to like what I do. And are they paper journals, like you're actually writing it down and everything?
Yeah, like cool. I think that makes it real. And sometimes, like, you know, especially in the fight game, there is a lot of like fear and anxiety to it, so getting it out is important, I think. But
yeah, I know I've heard before you're a big fan of Stoic philosophy.
Yeah.
And is that something you kind of made a daily practice of it, I believe? Is that something you pretty much stick to, and how does that like incorporate into your own style of philosophy with fighting and like what you do on a regular basis? And
yeah, it helps you. I find it helps me keep balanced, like mentally. You're constantly balancing things in the sport of Muay Thai. So you're, for example, like if I throw a punch straight out, that's like external energy. When I bring it in, it's internal energy. So I'm constantly balancing those, and if both energies are balanced at the same speed, then I get good snap on my punch, for example. So there's the same thing with like your emotions and stuff like that, right? So Stoic philosophy really, I guess, helps me with that anyways, where I can stay more neutral and not react to things as much as like maybe my opponent does, kind of thing in the ring, right? So because when you get hit with something, you're just like, some people will be like, oh, I'm gonna like run at this guy, sure. You know, and or some people will be like, get scared and back off, right? Or some people get that freeze response, right? So there's all those types of responses, and I guess the philosophy kind of helps me learn to stay neutral and balanced, where I could go to those end of those like I could go to like getting angry, I could go to getting sad, but I'm able to, I guess, draw it in faster by practicing that kind of stuff. But yeah.
So that's very cool. And you so you read like some of the Stoic stuff like daily almost, right? And who would you say your favorite of the Stoics is?
I have a hard time saying his name, but the Epictetus or
Epictetus, I think. Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah, like I like his stuff. His like because he ultimately, like Muay Thai. Muay Thai, I've noticed, is like a lot about the choices you make. Yeah. You know, so if I make a wrong choice, I'm getting punched in the head a lot of the time. Yeah. So if I make a good choice, I'm doing the punching. Right. So I like his books because he's a lot about freedom of choice.
Okay. Yeah.
But, yeah.
It's very cool. Now with so you were kind of talking about how reacting to and kind of keeping that cool emotion in the fight and everything. Do you get like a lot of performance anxiety, and like how do you typically handle that?
Yeah, that's a funny thing, because like every time I think I'm like good at handling it, I'm not. So it's like it's super annoying. But yeah, no, I fought in Thailand this year too, actually. And I was super scared, because I didn't do the same training I normally do. I kind of just hopped into the fight. It was like on a day's notice, and like I was training, yes, but I wasn't keeping track of my training. I wasn't doing my things to take that anxiety away and stuff like that, right?
Okay.
Fear a lot of the time when it comes to a fight, it will show up in logic, where it's like it'll give you, especially in a fight, there's a ton of reasons not to do that. It's like, why am I even fighting this person right now?
Yeah.
But I think a good reason why you're doing it is important in that situation, so you can almost argue with yourself, so it's just learning to identify it before it's too late. So I think understanding your fear is very important in like being able to identify where it shows up, which is hard because we're almost blind to it because it's in our head, right? So I think and having a trusted group around you is very important, because this time I just had my coach kind of identified it for me when I was like he could see that I was off, and he just said like, he's like, yo, you don't have to do this, man. And I was like, let me sleep on it kind of thing, and so I like went back to my room, came back, I'm like, yeah, let's do this, because I the reasons why I was doing it outweighed the reasons why I shouldn't do it, kind of thing.
Okay.
So yeah, I don't know. I guess that's how I deal with it, is break it down so it doesn't seem so big, and look at it as to why I'm doing something. But
that's super interesting. And so I've heard kind of your philosophy on why you fight before, and I find it really fascinating. Do you care to share that at all? Or do you want to kind of go into sort of it's definitely different from what I've kind of heard from fighters before. So no, for sure. Like I have no problem, I guess, getting hit myself. So I was never, I guess, that motivated to like fight for myself. Like I think I've maybe worn my belts like once or twice. That kind of doesn't mean that much to me. What means more to me is I guess showing people that that I'm scared doing it too, and it's just like I guess not giving into those fears means more to me. I feel better every time after that I've almost leveled up from going through that pain and going through those trials where I'm not giving into myself almost, so sure.
I guess I fight more for like my team and the people that support me, and like the fight in Thailand especially, like I keep drawing back to that one, is because I was super scared for that one,
Yeah.
And because the guy I fought had like 200 something fights, right? So I was like, oh man,
Wow.
I've got close to 50, but it's not 200.
Yeah. Like if you're looking at it on the path to mastery and just like building in that ingraining that skill. So that was a fight you won in Thailand, right?
Yeah.
And the story to me was super fascinating because you kind of beat a guy at his own game and at his own mental game too. Yeah. Can you like recount that story? Because like when I heard it, I was like, man, I got chills because it was just like so cool that you kind of were able to really just, I'd say, like dominate a guy at his own game, which is like sounds pretty. It was very impressive.
Yeah, like if I honestly, like a lot of it comes like I don't. If I had to just went in there and just fighting, like I would have lost, but. I accounted a lot to my training, and I just I just know that I train. one of the reasons why I quit in my job in the first place is like I couldn't get better as much as I needed to. So I wanted to dedicate all my time to Muay Thai throughout the day. So I just train a lot, you know. I'm not always training super hard, but I'm training a lot. So I guess recounting to my fight, that training just kind of helped me in that situation. But I could feel in the fight that this was really weird, is that he was reading almost everything I was doing. This was probably the most like defensive fighter I've ever fought against, where anytime I moved, he would counter it, and he was just locked onto my movement. And I actually at one point in the fight tested it out where I thought about something and he moved in a certain way as to counter that movement, and I was like, what the heck is this guy in my head right now? You know, like so then I started, when I stopped anticipating and thinking so much and overthinking things, and just started being and doing, and I was just like, I don't even care, I'm just gonna hit this guy. So I just started going with my thing, and then it worked, so I just kept going with that and not overthinking. I found that I was starting to land more and more shots. So I was more, I guess, in the moment than, you know, thinking externally as what's he's doing, because I know he's reading me and countering all my moves kind of thing. So I need to get focused and get present kind of thing, and you know, make this happen. And I ended up catching him in the fourth round and getting a knockout. So it was yeah, it ended up working out pretty good, but I was definitely banged up after that one for sure though.
Yeah. It's amazing, because it actually it leads perfectly into kind of this concept of flow when it comes to fighting, because that's, you know, describing exactly the some of the key characteristics, which is like that lack of self-consciousness, where you're kind of just in the moment. Now I can imagine, but does time slow down for you when you're like fighting? Or does time dilate in any strange ways?
Yeah, like yeah, it's weird. It's weird. I don't even know how to explain it, but you know, like it's sometimes like one thing that really stands out for me is like I've got a few knockouts on my record, and when I've actually knocked someone out, that energy like is super weird. So like when I thinking back on it, like in the moment, like I'm almost like not thinking, like I'm almost just doing, and almost responding through my training and stuff, and what I do, you know, and what I see in the moment. But like I look back on my knockouts and stuff like that, and you know, that's where it's like when it happens, it's like a crazy burst of energy. And like the one for this belt here is like I felt the shock go like all the way up my arm and down my back into my leg, and I was like, what the, you know. And I thinking back on the fight, like I felt it in the fight, yes, but then reflecting back on it, I felt it like more. I was like, whoa, that went like yeah, that was weird. You know.
Yeah, it's a very like interesting I guess effect, like looking back on it. I don't know, it might be because like in the moment, I've never really thought of this exactly, but you can look back on it and it feels like it's slowed down a lot more maybe than what it actually is in the moment. And I think it's because like that memory becomes so clear to you because you're not consciously thinking so much. So it's like even like a video screen is being recorded for you of that moment. It's kind of, I get the same feeling a lot with that. But do you recall like when this sort of a sense of being in the zone with fighting kind of first became more clear to you? Because like I'm always curious if there's like a turning point in somebody's timeline, and like, is there anything that stands out to you?
Yeah, like when I was more aware to it, kind of thing. Yeah. Yeah, like when I can definitely feel a change in my fight game. There was a point where my fight game changed, and it was when I lost, you know, most of my fights that I lost were all actually in a row. So the rest, like I would go on big winning streaks and stuff like that. So, but I think I'm like, I forget my record, but, you know, that I lost, I think it was like 5 fights in a row or something like that. Oh, and after that shift, like I used to be a fighter that would just go forward and I just didn't care. And I would just throw it. I got away because I could hit hard. So I got away with that for like many years. I was a purely like just physical and technical fighter, you know. After those 5 losses, I'm like, wow, I really just can't hang in with the high level people, you know. And I was like, I had to really take a look in the mirror. I'm like, do I want to keep doing this kind of thing? You know, I'm like, I'm just going and getting beat up. So I spent like a year maybe of like self-reflection and stuff like that, and figured out what I want to do with it. And like it's something I love to do. It's just I didn't have the mental strength behind it, you know, and awareness behind it of why I'm doing what I'm doing, and when I should strike, or what, you know, some of the formula and stuff like behind the actual striking game. I was just doing more than I was thinking, you know. So I spent a lot of time on like I guess learning like a ton about the fight game a lot more, and then and made that a daily practice. Like I still do that even today, right? And that was kind of the shift for me, that my awareness, you know, and learning to become more aware. And I think for fighting, like one of the things I say, and I got this from like that book, the Power of Now, is just like watch the thinker. So he says watch the thinker in there, and it's a good way to identify how you're feeling in the moment, especially like, you know, I did it mid-fight and made an adjustment to win my first fight, whereas the first round was very close. Like the guy was hit me pretty well with hands on the outside, which I usually win that game. Oh, okay. You know, so I'm like, well, I got to change something. So and then I was like seeing myself, you know, I didn't want to get frustrated or whatever, so I changed to clinching him up and kneeing instead, right? But yeah, I guess that little saying is a good way to bring yourself out of that just doing thing, and then going to like thinking and identifying what is the true issue here and what do I need to do, kind of thing, right? If I answered that question, I just kind of rambled a bit.
So obviously there's a lot of like a thought that goes into the training and preparation for each fight. Are there any like superstitions or anything, or like rituals that you really follow strictly, other than this daily practice that you've really instilled that helps you with, as you said, like even the maintaining or overcoming the performance anxiety and stuff? Are there any like superstitious kind of things that you do as well?
You know what? Like I used to be very like superstitious, where I'd have to wear the same pants to the fight or the same shirt. You know, I used to be like that. And then one time I lost with the superstitious stuff, you know, and I'm like, no, we're gonna. So I guess the superstition I have kind of thing is not really being attached to something, but also giving all my energy, you know. So it's not like, if that makes sense.
Oh, it's like the balance you talked about with Stoic philosophy, even.
Exactly. Yeah. You know, where it's like I'm not, you know, like I do certain things. Like I have a necklace that like my uncle made me. I bring that to the ring, lately. But I guess it's always different for every fight because I fight for almost different reasons every fight. So it's, you know, for example, I'll go back to the one in Thailand. Like, I was super scared in that one, and I was just like, all I did was pictured like my nephews and niece out in the crowd, like watching me. I'm like, oh man, I ain't losing in front of these guys. This guy thinks I'm a superhero, so I'm like, you know, so like that kind of thought process, I think, like, but you know, the main one is being, I guess, superstition wise, is being true to my training and not cutting corners. You know, where I do 50 kicks, I got to do 51, or I got to do 52. You know, or I ran this far yesterday, no, I got to run this far today, and I'll have to like touch the sign. Like, you know, it's like, so I'm very like disciplined in my training, so I don't rely on, I guess, the superstition to kind of carry me through. Yeah.
Cool. That's very cool. Is there like you were kind of talking about like some of the bigger goals with fighting and stuff. Is there like an end point or like an ultimate goal there that you're trying to achieve? Like you said, this is this the first time with Team Canada this year, or
yeah, this is the first time I'm actually going for it. So I've made Team Canada 2 or 3 times. But this is the first time I'm actually like, no, man, you're going. Like, it is, there's a lot of things that always come up for Team Canada because we gotta, you know, as fighters, we gotta pay our way and stuff like that, right? And, you know, it's not cheap to go to Bosnia. So, you know, and training costs as well, like, you know, trying to eat, you know, keep up with that. Like, I'm sure you understand that with weightlifting.
Yeah.
So there's a lot that goes into it, but yeah, no, this is the first time I'm actually going for it.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. Now, so kind of switching gears because you're also a business owner. So how do you, like, I guess you kind of, you have already touched on this a bit, but how do you like find that balance between owning a business and also being at such a top level as an athlete? It's even something, you know, for selfish reasons, I'm curious about your thoughts because you've been doing this for a while now, and like what are some of like the key things you do there?
That's a funny thing. Yeah, it's because that's the hardest thing to balance for sure. Is because I have a mission with my training and stuff like that, but I'm also caring for people too, right? And the hardest part is learning to balance those two things, you know. But the cool thing is the mission is actually the caring for people, you know. So the reason why so that's like a Jocko Willing thing, right? So the reason why I you know, fight is because I want to inspire those people to show them they can do it too. I want people to feel the feelings that I feel when I like win the belts or whatever, and overcome my fears and stuff, right? So that makes training a lot easier when I'm training, and when I'm coaching I can go from a place of experience to help that out. But also, the better I get at you know, the better I get at coaching, the better I get at fighting. You know, the better I get at fighting is the better I get at coaching. So they work hand in hand, you know. And then I kind of treat business like a fight almost, where it's like, you know, if I need to do something different, I train for it, and I'll learn and figure it out, right? So I guess that's where it works hand in hand. And I just realized I didn't answer the end game question, but the end game kind of thing is with fighting is I'm just seeing where it goes, I guess. You know, like I there's a few things I want to do left. Like I would like to do some boxing fights, but I've been fortunate where I haven't been hit that much in my fights, where I haven't been like like hurt really bad. Like I've got my nose broken pretty bad one time, but like I haven't been like there's a superstition. I haven't been hit that bad that I've been like hurt and put out for a long time, right? So
because that could definitely shift the thinking, I would imagine.
Yeah, and I make sure I take the time, I guess, between fights to rest, recover, and take time off. And that's very important. Like taking the rest throughout my training. You know, whereas Sundays I'm like, no one can find me usually. you know? So
that's cool. And that's sort of, I can imagine that would apply to also handling like the stress of business as well then too.
Exactly.
Are you guys are you open on Sundays or?
No, like I think eventually I'll get some classes going on Sundays, but I don't think I'll be teaching it. Okay. I need a day to just recharge the batteries and whatnot, and just kind of I do a lot of like lesson plans and stuff like that on Sundays where I'm kind of in the zone with that part of it.
Sure.
But
a question that was asked for this episode is like, how do you deal? So we covered the performance anxiety, but do you like deal with? Are you more on like the depressed scale or anxious scale, and how do you deal with anxiety if you ever face that to any extreme?
Like I would, because I'm so like I guess like goal oriented and stuff like that, I kind of deal, I guess, a little bit more with the anxiety end of things. Like I don't feel like depressed too often.
Right.
Obviously it's not a never kind of thing, because I feel both. How I deal with it is breaking it down logically. I break it down with logic. So I'll look at it for what it is, be realistic with it, right? Am I feeling this thing for a reason, or am I, what did I do? I guess I draw it internally. So what did I do to cause that emotion, right? Because, thoughts cause emotions and emotions cause thoughts. So you can kind of control that, right? So if you change your thoughts, you can change your emotions, right? And I just I don't know, look at it that way. And when I'm feeling something, I'll pay attention to it. Don't ignore it, and I'll be like, okay, why am I feeling that? And sit down and figure it out, right? Because I think that's where it starts to get too far to the end of the spectrum, is ignoring that feeling and putting like a cap on that feeling. But like your feelings are important. You need to pay attention to them and figure out why it's actually happening. And most of the time it's internal, but a lot of the time we push it external, where it's like, oh, this person caused that or emotion, or it's like, no, you're the only one that did that. So I guess taking ownership of that and responsibility of your feelings is important. But,
I've always found a very like strong relationship between Stoic philosophy and like the practices of either, whether you want to call it like Buddhism or mindfulness. And that's like a very mindful but also Stoic answer to the question. Do you have a specific mindfulness practice as well, or is it more tied in with like this reflection and stoicism?
Like I guess I don't like, I guess I'm like practicing it like all the time, like, so it's not like I ever really I like, you don't sometimes
like sit and meditate or anything, but
no. Okay. Like, but I'll sit down I'll sit down sometimes. Yeah, that's usually how it is. But I'll sit down sometimes in like all where I need to separate myself from like the situation and be like, okay, what do I, you know, and that's when I'm like setting goals or whatever and looking at something like unbiased almost, where I take a seat back from my fighting career or my the business or whatever, you know, and I'll look at it from an outside perspective. But at the same time, I'm doing that while I'm actually doing the task. So it's not like I'm always like, for example, making choices in the moment towards my greater goals kind of thing. So it's not like I'm just doing things because like I'm doing things because I want to accomplish something, you know, and do something with the fight game and in coaching game as well, you know. And
yeah,
but I don't know if that answered that.
For sure, it's however you want to answer it. Like, whatever comes naturally to you. I think I've only got like one more question, which is like something that came up that I just came to mind because it's part of something that I think is important, is finding that balance with social media. So what are your takes on social media? Obviously, running a business, you have to do a certain amount with the business, but how do you find that balance, or what are your thoughts? Are you on it a lot? Do you try to maintain like a balance there and kind of, you know, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, that's a good one because it's big right now.
Absolutely.
I think I try to treat it like a fight. So I'm not on it that much as I should be as a business person, you know. But I have mixed feelings about it.
Yeah.
I don't like I think anything in moderation, you know what I mean? So it's like, it's not like I don't eat, like I've been eating donuts all week this week, you know, like, so it's like I just got out of a fight camp where I was super disciplined for months, right? So I have a week where I'm just doing stupid stuff and eating whatever's in front of me, you know? But I think the same can go for like social media too, right? So I have a timer on my phone for my social media and stuff like that. If I go over that timer, I'm not like on it. So I just, I have a timer for the certain, I guess, apps or whatever. I'll do whatever I got to do within that time frame. And then after that, I kind of shut it down because it kind of messes your sleep cycle up too, like the blue light and stuff, right? So I don't like to be on my phone that much, and could be doing other stuff.
Right on. Which do you have an iPhone or an Android phone? Which app is that you use? Is it just like is it the one that's kind of baked into the software, or is it like something specific outside of that?
Like social media, or what do you?
Sure,
doing?
Yeah, like. Yeah.
Usually I go through like Instagram. I actually like that one better. More pictures.
Yeah.
I usually do it through Instagram, and then like I'll do stuff on Facebook and Twitter and stuff like that. But I see most of the following is on like Instagram, Facebook kind of stuff. So I just post most of the stuff there. But we have like I guess like Facebook groups where I update people on like announcements and like competition team stuff, and just try to keep people organized that way. But
cool. No, that's I think it's definitely important, and it's a good practice. I like the idea. We've talked about it before on the podcast, but implementing some sort of like timer to even just be aware of like your usage, even if it's not. I know some of them can like have that like hard line that cuts you off, and others are more just like a notification that you kind of can ignore if you want. But it's important to build that awareness around how much you're using it, and if it's impacting your sleep, and like the blue light that's emitted, because that's sweet. And just like I think we talked about this when Josh was on, but you were the first one I saw to ever really be using the blue light blocking glasses. And Do you
Yeah.
do you make use of them like much, or did you find it like helpful at all to?
Yeah, no, usually when I'm on the computer, if I'm like doing emails or whatever I got to do on the computer, I'll usually have them on.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good practice, because I mean, even just for like eye strain and everything, like that much blue light coming straight at your eyes is pretty damaging over time.
Yeah, and then you see yourself like hunched in front of the computer, your eyes just dried right out.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you wanted to mention or go over?
You said like the time thing, I thought that was an interesting thing, like tracking your time with social media, but I do the same actually with like that, like one journal I was talking about. Like I do the same with my goals and stuff like that. So
cool.
I track my time with, especially my Muay Thai, my training in Muay Thai, in my training, in my time I spend on my curriculum and stuff like that I teach to people.
Oh, yeah.
So I track the time with that. Not only does that take my anxiety away and give confirmation of how much effort I've put into these products, but it's it gives me a sense of where I spend my most time and what's working, right? So
cool.
I track that. I track like the time I spend doing the operations of the gym, how much I'm teaching, whatever, right? And I can, I guess, get a grasp of where to, I guess, allocate my time.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's
correctly.
That's awesome. That's something that is definitely a valuable way to go about. We recently had an episode that was all about like time management and
cool.
productivity, and that I don't think we ever really touched on that as a key point, but that can definitely help people. I think it raises that like awareness and mindfulness of where, like you said, maybe need to allocate more time, and even just considering if the amount of time that you're spending on something is worthwhile, and maybe if you need to adjust it. Do you just kind of like do like a line graph of that, or like do you just like write down the number of hours or whatever in the journals?
Yeah, like I'll the night before I plan what I'm going to do during the day,
okay,
and like what time I have to do these things. And I'll break it into 25-minute windows.
Cool.
And then I'll have like a 5-minute break where I just get up and like think about nothing.
Yeah.
And just look around the room. But 25-minute windows. Sometimes I'll like, usually I'm pretty strict on that, but
yeah.
Sometimes I estimate wrong. Like say I gave myself 2 25-minute windows to get this part of the curriculum done. I'm not going to, if I don't get it done in that time, I'll just keep working on it because I'm in that flow state.
Uh-huh.
So I'll just keep going with that and then get on to my next point, like tomorrow kind of thing, right?
Cool.
But yeah, like I think the timing thing's very important to bring awareness to what you spend your time on, because then it'll bring awareness to like how many cat videos you're watching on social media, like
yeah.
getting down that wormhole, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know.
That's awesome. That's a really great tip to take away. Do you use like a bullet journal or what kind of journal? Like, do you actually like block it out, or how's it kind of look? I'm just very curious about that.
Yeah,
like
that's cool.
I kind of, as you can see, like with the bullet journals like this, it's very easy to like even make like a if you were gonna like block them out into little actual like cubes.
Cool.
So that's kind of like I'm curious because like a lot of people using that style of dot grid journal are able to like make it very visually like apparent.
Yeah. So it is similar like that I do. Is it's like I'll write down like basically 5 things that I want to get done throughout the day, and put them in order, prioritized. So like what I do first. Usually what I do first is like I'll work on something towards Muay Thai.
Yeah.
Because that's my main purpose. Top priority
first.
So I do something towards Muay Thai first every single day.
Yeah.
And then that's Sundays included. And then after that I'll go down and like things with less priority kind of thing, you know. Then I'll put beside it like a number. I got it from this like productivity planner thing, but then I just started doing my own journals with it. But
yeah,
then I'll put like a little box and a number, and the number is like how many 25-minute windows do I estimate to do this task.
Gotcha.
You know?
Yeah.
And then I'll just like color in, like I'll draw, like color in a little circle for the one, you know, color in a little circle for the second one kind of thing if there's 2 windows, you know. And then if I have to keep going, I'll color in another one. And then so you write down the estimated time and then the actual time. So then you can look at it and be like, oh, okay, it actually took me that long instead of this, right? I need to. And you get better at estimating your time as well.
Of course.
All right.
Awesome. That's it's a very good a good practical tip for how to implement that, and I like that a lot.
Cool.
Yeah, sweet. Is there anything else? I know that you kind of had we're running out of time here, but is there anything else that you wanted to mention?
I don't think so. Cool. Go to the Flow Spa. It's awesome. Like I went to another planet when I was in here.
Yeah, right on. Thank you. I'll be sure to also like link in all of your social media stuff. And
cool.
And hopefully anybody that's interested in taking up a martial art, check out Mike's gym in Peterborough.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. You bet.